So let me ask you something. When you're faced with a choice, do you cooperate or do you look out for number one? It seems like a simple question, right? But that one decision can have some seriously complex consequences for everyone involved. We're going to explore how just one tiny tweak to the rules of the game can completely change how we humans interact.
Picture this. You're on a game show. There's you and one other person, and you're both staring at a life-changing pile of cash. In front of you are two buttons. One says split, the other says steal. What do? Your choice and their choice is going to decide who walks away with everything, or maybe with nothing at all. And look, this whole high-stakes choice, it's not just for TV. It actually pulls back the curtain on this fundamental conflict that researchers have been obsessed with for decades, this deep, deep tension between our own self-interest and the good of the group.
Yeah, that's the core question, isn't it? To cooperate or to betray? That one question is right at the heart of a whole field of study that's dedicated to figuring out how we make these strategic decisions.
And that field? Well, it's called game theory. You can kind of think of it as the science of strategy. It's a way to understand how we all make choices when the outcome of our decision depends completely on what someone else decides to do. Now, the classic example that really breaks this down is the prisoner's dilemma. Imagine two partners in crime get caught. They're put in separate rooms so they can't talk, and the cops offer each of them the same deal. If you betray your partner and they stay quiet, you walk free. If you both stay quiet, you'll both get a short sentence. But if you both betray each other, you're both going to prison for a long, long time. See the problem? Betrayal always seems like the smartest move for you personally, but it almost always leads to a way worse outcome for everyone.
And like I said, this isn't just some dusty old thought experiment. This exact dilemma with real, hard cash on the line has been played out on TV for millions to see. You see, there was this British game show, Golden Balls, and it put contestants into this super high-stakes version of the prisoner's dilemma. It forced them to choose between splitting a huge jackpot or trying to steal the whole thing for themselves. Okay, so let's break down the simple, almost brutal logic of this game. If you both cooperate and pick split, you both share the prize. Fantastic. But if you choose split and the other person chooses steal, they get everything and you get a big fat zero. And the absolute worst case scenario? If you both get greedy and both try to steal, you both go home with absolutely nothing. Ouch. So here's what's so fascinating. Classic game theory actually says the most rational strategy here is to always pick steal. Why? Because it protects you from getting nothing and it gives you a shot at winning it all. But here's the paradox. When both players think that way, it leads to this weird stalemate called a Nash equilibrium. It's a situation where no one can improve their outcome by changing their own strategy. And in this case, that means they both steal and they both lose. It kind of feels like a rigged game, doesn't it? It perfectly highlights that conflict between what's smart for you and what's smart for the group. But what if we could change the rules? What if we could redesign the game to actually encourage better outcomes?
Well, this is exactly the question that a fascinating research paper by Zofia Heinl dug into. It asks if a really simple change could lead to more cooperation, maybe even altruism.
So what did the paper suggest? Something so simple, but honestly, it's kind of revolutionary. It takes the game from this black and white choice, conflict or cooperation, and adds a third option. What if, instead of just splitting or stealing, you could choose to gift? All right, so how does this new gift option actually work? Well, it completely rewrites the payoffs, and it changes the entire dynamic of the game. Okay, let's really dig into this new payoff table. These numbers represent points. Just look at the top left corner. If you both choose gift, you each get 2 points. That's double what you would get from both choosing split. So that's good, but now look at what happens when generosity meets selfishness. If you gift and the other player steals, they walk away with 4 points, the max, and you get 0. Yikes. The key here is that gifting introduces a whole new path to a better collective outcome, even if it adds a bit more personal risk. It's not just a simple choice between cooperation and betrayal anymore. So what's the end result of all this? Well, the game gets more complicated, sure, but in a really good way. Suddenly, the best choice isn't just always steal. Altruistic choices can now be strategically rewarded, and that can lead to higher average payouts for everyone over time. It makes cooperation a much more viable and even a more rational path to take.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This is all just a fun little thought experiment, right? Well, not exactly. The implications of this are incredibly relevant to our everyday lives, from our jobs to our governments. I mean, really think about it.
Our social and economic systems, they're really just massive, large-scale games. They all have their own rules and payoff structures that are designed, whether we realize it or not, to reward certain behaviors and discourage others.
In the business world, just think about employee reward systems. Are they designed to pit people against each other for some limited bonus pool? Or are they set up to encourage teamwork for a shared reward? This same logic applies to contract negotiations, even auction design. When you build systems that foster trust, you can actually reduce costs and create way more value for everybody. And then you scale this up to the public sphere, and whoa, the stakes get even higher. International climate talks are a perfect example of this. Is each country choosing to steal a short-term economic advantage or split the responsibility for a better future? And this plays out in our own lives, too. Every time we choose to vote or get a vaccine, we are weighing an individual cost against a collective good. And this brings us to a really crucial point about the power of how we design these systems. What researchers Fair and Fishbacher found is incredible. They said that with the right rules in place, even a small minority of altruistic people can pull everyone else toward cooperation. But, and this is a big but, the wrong rules can allow just a few selfish people to unravel the whole system for everybody. The architecture of our choices matters a lot. So that brings it all back to a final critical question. The rules of all these games, they aren't set in stone. They were designed by people, which means they can be redesigned by people. So I want you to take a look around at your job, in your community, in your country. What are the rules of the game? And how could they be changed to make giving not just a nice idea, but maybe, just maybe, the smartest move you can make?